We're an apologetics ministry, right? We're answering questions. I remember one of the things that happened at school was when a student put up his hand and said, "Sir, Noah's Ark couldn't be true." "Why not?" "Well, he couldn't fit all those animals on board." "Okay, son, well, how many animals did he need to fit on board?" "Well, I don't know, sir, but he couldn't have fitted them." "Well, what size was the ark?" "Well, I don't know, sir, but there's no way it could have happened." And you realize that student has a problem with mathematics, right? An unknown number of animals can't fit in an unknown size ark. And as I say to people, it's even worse when they ask, how did Moses get all them animals on the ark? Which I had some of them ask me. But it reinforces the fact that people have questions. And if we can't answer their questions, they think, see, it can't be true. I remember once when I was over in London, in England, and this was in the early days when I did some tours in England speaking as well. I still go there today and speak. But we're at a Brazilian restaurant, and I'll never forget it, because the chef found out we're doing a creation conference nearby. And so he came over to the table and he said, you're speaking on the Bible?" "Yes." "You believe the Bible?" "Well, yes, we do." "Why?" He said, "Well, I don't believe the Bible." I said, "Oh, why not?" He said, "Well, the Bible says that Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Then where do all the people come from then? Where did Cain get his wife? And I said, "Well, Genesis 5:4 says Adam had sons and daughters." And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I didn't read that far." And that's a problem with a lot of people. They don't read that far. They don't read their Bibles. But here's a point I want to make. As I've traveled around the world in the last 35 years and traveled to many, many different countries, when people hear you speaking on the Bible, or you believe Genesis, or you're doing a conference associated with that in some way, they ask questions. And it doesn't matter what country you're in, where you are, you get the same basic questions. How do you know there's a God? Where did God come from? Wait a minute, hasn't science disproved the Bible? How to know if it all the animals on the ark? But there's no evidence for a flood. Doesn't carbon-14 disprove the Bible? You believe in Adam and Eve? Where did Cain get his wife? How do you explain all the races of people if we go back to Adam and Eve? Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. They disprove the Bible. What about all the ape men? And you see, when I today, even in churches, say, put up your hand if you've heard those questions, most hands go up. And I say the reason your hands go up is because that's what I call the Genesis 3 attack of our day. Did God really say? Genesis 3. The attack that's associated with the teaching of evolution millions of years that's caused generations of people to doubt that you can trust the Bible. And then they have all these questions. The trouble is, in many churches, instead of giving answers to the next generation, training them up to be able to defend the Christian faith, a lot of them have said, well, we don't know, it doesn't matter anyway, who cares, trust in Jesus. And 2/3 of young people in America are walking away from the church by the time they reach college age. In England, 2/3 of teenagers say they don't believe in God. Church attendance is down from 60% to about 7% in England. 4,000 churches are closing their doors each year in America. 3 million people a year are converting to what they would call secularism or nominalism in America. And what's happened is generations of kids have not been trained in their churches and Christian homes to defend the Christian faith, been giving answers to these attacks of this age. So that's one of the reasons why, and I've seen this as I've traveled around the world, so many people asking questions. I remember even once I was in the middle of Ohio somewhere and stopped at a gas station, petrol station, translate for Australians, in the middle of the night, and I was putting petrol in the car, and I noticed the guy that was inside, who was there at the cash register, was looking at us, and then he came out and he said, "I think I've seen you on video or something." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you talk about creation?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "Oh, look, I've always wanted to know, where did Cain get his wife?" I think I've been asked that question more than any other question as we travel. But it's this whole emphasis on to have questions, and we need to give them answers.